Welcome to WEHM All Access, the podcast where we bring you in-depth conversations with the people shaping life right here on Eastern Long Island. Now, every episode, we're going to dive into the stories, the music, and the voices that define our community, from local leaders to the musicians you know and love. And throughout the summer, we're catching up with many of the performers taking the stage at the Great South Bay Music Festival, getting the inside scoop on their music, their journey, and what they're bringing to Patchogue this year. On this episode of WEHM All Access, we sit down with Little Feat's own Kenny Gradney, a bassist with a lifetime of stories from the road. From Delaney Bonnie to Lil George, Janis Joplin, the Allmans, and decades of Little Feat, of course, Kenny shares the moments that shaped him and why the music still drives everything he does. Let's get into it. It's EHM All Access with Kenny Gradney. It is EHM All Access as we chat with a lot of different performers this year's 2026 Great South Bay Music Festival. And joining me right now is a member of the band Little Feat, Kenny Gradney. Kenny, how are you?
Just fine. How are you?
Very good. Thanks for doing this. Looking forward to Sunday as you're part of the lineup for this year's Great South Bay Music Festival at Shorefront Park in Patchogue. And excited to see you guys live. I think I saw Little Feat a couple of years back on Long Island. You've been course touring quite a bit in the past decade or so, but it's good to get you back here. And I kind of wanted to start a little bit. What did you listen to, and what were kind of your influences growing up as a young musician?
Well, it's funny because my dad was in the music business, and my dad came to California with Johnny Otis and a gentleman named Lonnie Rochon, who was a disc jockey in L.A. on one of the stations for a while. And I came out with them, and that's basically what I listened to, blues, and my brothers would doo-wop in the bedroom at night. And I grew up playing all the Motown and all that stuff. I was in a band called the Turbans. My cousin's Al McKay.
Oh my gosh.
And people who don't know Al McKay is, he was in the Watts 103rd Street Rhythm Band. He was in a lot of bands, and he finished in the Earth, Wind and Fire.
Okay.
And we grew up together. He gave me my first bass lesson. And as a kid, I grew up listening to all of that. I played Nike and Tina when I was 16
Right.
for a little while. And when I was 16, I got a Jimi Hendrix album. And that changed the whole course of my life. I started playing rock and roll. And I always knew I could add a little something to rock and roll. And I got in Delaney Bonnie, which was a lot of fun. And I learned a lot from Delaney. And Allman was the Allman Brothers were the opening act. And Dwayne played with us. So I got a quick blast in growing up and what touring was like before I joined Little Feat.
Well, you had a lot of experiences with, it sounds like with a lot of different musicians as you were touring, and I think with Delaney and Bonnie. What were some of the musicians you got to meet for the first time when you were touring with them?
With Delaney, I met, of course, the Allman Brothers.
Yes.
I could go on.
No, I feel like, because I feel like you met everyone. I've read Janis Joplin, I think you came across.
Yeah, I did the train tour, and I met the Dead. Bobby and I became good friends right up until his passing, which broke my heart. I met Levon Helm, who we were good friends. He was around Little Feat a lot. And just so many people that I met. The Stones. I met Mick Jagger the first week I was in Little Feat. We were rehearsing at SIR. And we walk out of the rehearsal room, and he was sitting against the wall right by the door listening. And when we walk out, and Bonnie goes, "Hey, can you meet Mick?" Like that. He was part of they were all part of the English thing, because Delaney had taught Eric Clapton how to sing and worked on his first album with him, and later co-wrote George Harrison's first album, which was pretty awesome. And I was hanging around for all that stuff.
You were
Sly Stone, I met Bobby Womack, Wilson Pickett. They're all sitting at his house. It was pretty amazing.
Now, this is all before, and this is part of it. I imagine a lot of this part of the Festival Express tour of Canada that you were a part of. And I know we mentioned Janis Joplin. You met her, I think, just a few months before she passed away.
Well, I met her on the train.
Yeah,
and we hung out on the train. And right before she had signed a contract with Delaney, and Delaney was going to produce her and Bonnie do some kind of duet with them, and she died 2 weeks later.
Gosh.
Unbelievable. It was just like quick.
What was it like to be in her? Was it obvious that she was, I'd imagine, just someone extraordinary, such a talent?
No, to me, I was a kid, man. I didn't see anything.
That's interesting. Yeah, I guess from that perspective, you're right. How old were you?
I was 19 when I joined Delaney and Bonnie.
Okay.
I was 20 when I was on the train. And I was 22 when I left them. And I left them, and 2 weeks later, I got a phone call from Dolph Remp. Dolph and Ken Berry opened SIR. They originally started SIR. And I met them because they only had one roadie, and that was my brother. My brother was the roadie. My brother was production manager for Delaney and Bonnie. That's how I got the auditioning. So Dolph called me and said, there's this band here that's been auditioning bass players for about 2 weeks, and they have a record deal. And he said, they're pretty good. You should come and check them out. That's how I first heard of Little Feat.
Oh my gosh. Well, they were a couple albums in by that point. Was that?
Yeah, they had 2 albums. Kind of country, I thought, when I first heard them.
Yeah.
I really liked Lowell when I met him. And Paul and Richie and Billy, they were good guys.
There was a formal audition that you had to go through.
Well, not really. Billy and I remember it differently. It was a long time ago, but I remember not spending more than 5 minutes at his house because he was eating. And I went to Warner Brothers Studios and walked in, and I was just jamming. I was going to see whether I wanted to play with them or not. What the heck kind of band they were, And I met Lowell. I liked Lowell. And Richie was a beast. When we started playing, I went, oh, this is good. I could do this, And Lowell looked, we played. We didn't rehearse. We just played for about 4 or 5 hours.
Oh, wow.
Then he says, well, we're going to rehearse around noon tomorrow. I said, I'll be here like that. And that was it. Wow. I played with him for about 2 weeks, and Lowell kept yelling at Richie to stay in time because Richie just was having fun. And I said, I got somebody that'll keep Lowell in time, that'll keep Richie in time. He goes, really? I said, yeah, I'll bring him tomorrow. And I brought Sam.
Oh, my gosh.
And Sam was looking at joining Chicago or putting a band together for Bonnie Bramlett. And I said, dude, let's just try this. So he played. He goes, this is cool, but I think I'm going to go do. I said, well, we're going to Hawaii and do a show in Crater Festival. Come to Hawaii with us. He goes, ooh, that sounds like fun. So we went to Dick Crater Festival, and there was 40,000 people at Crater Festival.
Wow.
And it was rocking. And halfway through the show, Sam started screaming at me, Stuff, I'm in. So he got in the band.
What was it like coming to the band, and they had done things already, obviously a couple of different records, and as you mentioned, maybe a little bit of a different sound, more country. What was it like kind of finding your way with the band, because you were stepping into something that had been there for a little bit, and also some new members too, though, with Sam and Paul. What was that like for you?
Well, I didn't look at it like that. I was auditioning them like they were auditioning me, because I was 20 years old, 22. I had a lot of prospects ahead of me things I could do, start my own band. I had a bunch of stuff on my mind.
Yeah.
But when he said we're going to do an album, I said, cool. And then they start pulling out all these great songs, and I was like, this is amazing. Dixie Chicken, I was just like, well, and I played with a pick back then. I've never said this on live, but I did Dixie Chicken with a pick.
My goodness, wow.
with a felt pick. I used to play with one. And that's how I got the chicken go doom, doom sound. It's with a felt pick.
That's so cool. Wow. This was, and you really added your own elements to this, because that record was just a different sound. And
it's totally different band. Yeah. Totally different band. Because Paul Barrere had never played live with them. I mean, on a record with them. And Sam and I, we were three new people with them. And we all brought a different element. Paul was amazing rhythm player. That's why Lowell brought him to play rhythm. And Paul had his own way of playing rhythm. He was unbelievable. And I really enjoyed playing with all of them. And it was a lot of fun. And the first album, we just went in there and kind of partied, played the stuff, and Lowell was rock and roll doctor. Lowell would say, okay, play this. And he would record it and he'd go home. And he had these tapes that he could unscrew and open. And then he would clip out sections and go, bring it back. And it was da-da-da. And, and he played it, and Richie's going, that's a bar of one. So one bar of two, and then it goes back. And he would just play it. We were like, wow. And we just followed him. And, I just followed Richie most of the time and just played off his kick drum and what he did, and really made it sound like it should, I thought. Yeah. Lowell was really happy. Never said anything to me about what I played.
Really?
Loved everything I played. Yeah, that was the best part.
I'm curious what Lowell was like, because there was the myth of Lowell George, the musician, but what was he like as a person? Like, what did he talk about? What did you guys, because obviously you spent a lot of time together.
He was into everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was into everything. He was quite a character, man. He was very articulate, very bright young man, and knew his music, knew all his music. He was amazing. He played all kind of instruments.
Just thinking about his memory or his legacy, is there something you remember that always stands out, that was kind of the moments where you knew, and not that you were accepted, because it sounds like Lowell accepted you right away. You guys had such a...
when he said, are you coming to rehearsal tomorrow? I knew I was in. He goes, we're rehearsing tomorrow at noon. Are you coming? I go, yeah, I like it. He goes, good.
When he led you guys or collaborated with you guys, how did it work with him? Was it kind of a team, or did it kind of flow through him?
We played, and he was like, he didn't want to work at it,
Yeah.
He made it, he didn't, everybody knew what they were doing. That's the best part about this band. Everybody knew what they were doing. Billy was and is a genius keyboard player. And we would play the music, and he would take it home, cut up the tape, bring it back, and go, okay, play it like this. He knew how he wanted his songs done.
Gotcha, yeah. All right.
And the rest of the time, we were getting high, smoking a lot of pot, and just partying. But, he ran the band as one of the guys, and he was the kind of guy you just wanted to follow. So we just followed him, whatever he did. And Warner's made him, when we signed the second deal, he had to do a solo record. So he said, look, he called me. I know Sam said he called him too, and said, I got to do this record, and I have to do this tour because it's in the contract. And when I come back, we're going to be back together and everything will be fine. That was the last thing I heard from him.
Yeah.
Before he passed.
That was in 1979, I believe. Yeah. And what was that like? Because you had been together as a family, working together. I can't imagine how difficult that was.
I had just gotten married July 78. He was my best man. And we were all very close. And when he died, I just went into a deep depression. I thought my career was over, I just bought a house and everything. And it was pretty tough to lose a friend like that.
I can imagine. And you guys, of course, disbanded for a bit.
Yeah, it had happened to me before. When I was with Delaney and Bonnie, we came off the road. The Allman Brothers were opening, and Dwayne was playing with us, and I was on stage with him, and he was sort of like a big brother to me, And we go home, and he dies,
Yeah, no, that's something that you don't. And I'd imagine those experiences.
No.
I don't know if it helped you with Lowell, but wow, quite a bit to go through.
King Curtis was playing in the band, and a few weeks later, I find out he gets killed on his front porch. So, and then when I went to Little Feat and Lowell passed, it was later in my life, and I understood, I understood it better. It was disappointing and heartbreaking, but I understood it a little better.
What did you do during the years before the band reformed? What kind of kept you busy?
Right in 79, 80, Paul and I toured with Nicolette Larson, the Lotta Love tour. We toured with her. We went to Japan with her.
Yeah.
And I came home and I hung out, and I got a call from Mick Fleetwood around 82. And I played in the zoo. And I toured Australia with them a couple of times, a few years. And then I get a call from someone for the Bob Weir band, Bobby and the Midnights. And, one thing led to another, and Billy Cobham was the drummer. So I went, wow. I went from Richie to Mick Fleetwood to Billy Cobham. I mean,
not bad, yeah.
That's pretty awesome. So I toured with Weir, which was a hoot. It was like reliving the past, learning all those Dead songs, and reliving the train. And we had a great time. And I get a call right to the end of the 80s. I'm finishing up that. I get a call to come from Billy to come and sit in at the Alley Rehearsal Hall. They had built the room for Lowell, and they wanted us to christen it. And I hadn't seen Billy or spoken to him since Lowell passed, since we did the benefit for his wife and kids. And so I said, sure, I'll go. And I went over, and I had a phone call that I had to answer. So I went over, and we played. It was fun. We laughed. We couldn't get through a song, but it rocked. And I made this phone call while I was there, and it was for Warren Zevon. And he wanted me to come and audition, and I laughed. I said, I don't audition. I said, who have you got in the band so far? He goes, well, I'm calling you first. So I turned and I said, hey, Richie, you want to go and tour with Warren Zevon? Richie goes, yeah. I said, okay, you got a bass player and a drummer. They went, okay, like that. And we were in, and we started rehearsing, and we did the Warren Zevon tour. And then after that, we started working on Little Feat. And in 87, we did the album and came out in 88, and we were back on the road again.
Was that a tough decision to come back? Because it sounds like the when you got
back with Little Feat.
Yeah, I mean the reunion kind of led to that. It sounds like, but what was because a lot of people, the fans, a lot of people thought maybe the band couldn't exist without Lowell. I was curious, where were you with that? Like, where was your mind with that aspect?
I never thought like that. I mean, Lowell used to walk off the stage all the time. I mean, the band
That's true, huh?
was a beast back then. And Lowell knew it. And he just would just cruise around because he knew it was rocking. And everybody who ever heard us play live knew the band was strong. Wow. That was not the problem.
No, that's very interesting. You faced a lot of loss. You mentioned a lot of different things you've gone through. And going back to, I think it was 2010 when Richie passed. What was, you just keep going as a band. And it sounds like that's kind of the mantra.
The music is big. The music has to continue. Everybody in the band knew, Richie knew it. Paul knew it. It really hurt when Paul went. Paul and I, we did a lot of stuff on the road together. We played a lot of golf, a lot of golf. We played all over the freaking world playing golf, laughing. It's hard losing friends. It's not easy. It's part of life. As you get older, you start losing more. Just lost a sister.
Wow, my condolences.
It's not easy, Life is fragile. You just continue living and enjoy what you have while you have it. Because your turn's coming soon, sooner rather than later, I guess.
That's interesting.
It's always too soon.
No, that's I think that what you said there is the music that keeps you going.
Absolutely, the music that keeps us going, always. And we're very fortunate to have found Scott Sherrard and Tony Leone. Tony had been around the band because Tony played in Amy Helm's band. He played with Levon, Amy Helm. He played in the Chris Robertson in the Brotherhood. And the guy is an amazing drummer, just unbelievable jazz drummer, rock and roll drummer.
It sounds like that's almost reinvigorated you a little bit with the new blood.
Absolutely, absolutely, without a doubt.
What was it like in? I know the record Sam's Place came out a couple of years back, and front and center lead voice. What was it like to see him in the spotlight for that?
Well, we've been trying to put him out there forever, and finally, we get an opportunity, and it was fun. The whole thing was fun. It was just laughing, and we have always played blues on the show. He always sings in the middle of a political blues. Billy'd been talking about it. Sam been talking about it. So we finally did it, and came out great. It was a lot of fun. Playing music with this band is fun. It's great musicians. Fred Tackett, Billy Payne, Sam Clayton, all of them. Just great musicians. And it adds so much.
Looking forward to seeing you guys Sunday at the Great South Bay Music Festival. Little Feat, Kenny Gradney. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
Great perspective on the music, and really it kind of explains how you guys have kept going all these years. And
it's the music that keeps us going.
It certainly is. Thank you so much, Kenny.
Certainly not the money.
No, and you've worked with so many amazing people. And I've read about Jimmy Page talking about, all these artists that you've met. So do you have any plans to retire ever? Or is this kind of you just keep going?
Music is part of you.
Yeah.
You don't retire from your body. You continue. I'll continue playing.
Yeah.
In some way, shape, or form. I won't stop playing. I can't stop playing.
What do you? Because you've met so many different interesting people along the way, but I'm curious your thoughts on today's musicians and certain ones that have impressed you on the road. Not to put you on the spot,
there are some incredible musicians out there today, and they're learned. They've studied music. I unfortunately never got the opportunity to study music like I wanted to, and these kids today, they're so knowledgeable. It's just amazing. And it's so much easier with computers and websites to learn an instrument. It's so much easier than it was. I taught myself how to play. I would play a record and pick notes off of it, and learn the record. That's the way I learned.
Well, now it's certainly changed, but kind of opened up a whole world of opportunity for a new generation, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, Kenny, thank you very much. I will see you Sunday.
My pleasure.
Little Feat, Sunday, 26th, Great South Bay Music Festival.
Looking forward to seeing you.
Thank you so much, Kenny. Great to talk to you.
You too.